Once you lose yourself in a relationship, how do you start the process for finding yourself again, especially if you're not the same person as before? Beautiful question, Tasha. I would first make sure I can answer the question that there was a sense of self before, because I would argue that a lot of women, especially in now's day and age, most women found their first definition when they got married, found their first definition when they became a mom. And that was the definition that they held on to. And so when a lot of women say they lost themselves, in reality, they didn't lose it. It was never something that was obtained. And it could still feel like losing yourself, but it looks different. When you have an identity prior to marriage, prior to being a mom, it's like saying, I had hobbies, I had interests, I had, friends that kept me motivated, I had goals, I had dreams. You see what I'm saying? And then I traded it out for being a wife and mother. Most people, most women are just working odd jobs, just trying to get the bills paid, and then they get married and they have babies. Or they meet this one guy this one time and they, accidentally have a baby, and then they become mom. You see what I'm saying? Those women will still think that they lost themselves because they realize, I literally have no sense of me outside of being a wife. I literally have no sense of me outside of being a mother. You see what I'm saying? These are my definitions. Who am I if I'm not your wife? Who am I if I'm not my kid's mom? And they start asking those questions because children start to branch out and do things without you, and you start feeling purposeless. As you get more longevity in your relationship, the spark tends to die down a little bit, especially if you're not putting genuine work into it. You guys become, roommates, if you will, that have history. And you start feeling bored, but you don't know what to do. So you're just like, when I'm not washing dishes, when I'm not doing laundry, when I'm not fixing plates, when I'm not making appointments and filling out insurance and tax forms and all the rest of that, who am I? The assumption is you lost yourself, when in reality, you just don't know what to do, because your mommy duties are becoming less and less. Your wifely duties are sometimes becoming less and less. And in reality, you have no idea that before you had the label wife, before you had the label mom, if you had an identity to begin with. And this is how you know I'm not lying, because oftentimes women that didn't have an identity prior to being a wife, prior to being a mom, they have to, when their kids go off to college and they grow up and they're getting boyfriends and girlfriends and moving out and getting distance, and the silence sets into the home, you don't know what makes you happy anymore. You feel neglected by your kids. You're clocking them, how often they call, how often they come home, because you literally have nowhere to put your energy. You and your husband are barely pouring into each other these days. So y'all just kind of sit around in front of the TV. And you're looking for that fire again. You see what I'm saying? So I would first answer that question. Did you have an identity to begin with, or are you starting from scratch? Are you actually looking for someone, or are you building someone? And so if you're looking for someone, all you have to do is get back to what made you happy. Pick up those same hobbies, and dive into the things that gave you joy. But if you're starting from scratch, you literally have to get to know yourself all over again. Like literally. And I don't even want to say all over again. You literally have to get to know yourself. You have to get out there and try different foods, go to different restaurants. You have to try different hobbies to see if you like it or if you don't. And this is how you know you never had an identity. When somebody can ask you if you like this or you don't like this, you don't know if you like it or not. You haven't tried it yet. You haven't experienced that yet. There's so many things, basic things that your average person is like, no, I'm not really into that. I'm not really into that. You're like, I have no idea. I never even had time to even experience that to know. You see what I'm saying? So if you're building yourself, you have to get to know yourself from scratch. You have to learn what you like. You have to learn what makes yourself happy. I know this to be true because as a life coach, I can't tell you how many women I've coached, and a lot of their time is immersed in what their man is doing. It's almost like an obsession. And it's like, well, what do you do when you have me time? Outside of nails and hair and taking baths and washing your hair. Have a good night, precious. What do you like to do? What do you want to be? Do you have a career goal? You know what? I mean, I don't know. You mean to tell me you went and became a wife, you went and became a mother, and you have no idea what you were searching for before that? Wow, it says so much. There's a lot of women that will go their entire life, be married and have a long time marriage, raise kids, and never discover their power, never discover their gift, never discover their purpose, their joys. They have no idea what it feels like to bring joy just from the inside of their body, and it has nothing to do with anybody but them. You are discovering yourself from the sand if you've never known yourself. Wow, definitely gave me something to think about. Always been a people pleaser and lack self-esteem. Thank you. Absolutely, Tasha. It's honestly, that by itself, we should have a conversation about that on a podcast, because there's a lot of clarity to be had just around that simple question. Because a lot of women say that in full-blown relationships and being a mom, and they're just like, and honestly, that feeling right there, this is another light bulb for any women or any men, or even asking themselves the question. That right there is a big reason why women get divorced, is because they hit that wall and they think that their husband, they think that being a mom is somehow blocking them from what they need to do. And so they divorce their husband to go out and find themselves because they feel like their marriage is holding them back. When in reality, they just need to do the groundwork. They need to discover themselves, and they don't know that they never had an identity to begin with. See, for them, they think because they went out to dinner, they had friends, they had single life and this and that and the other. Now they're a mom and they're a wife, and there's so many responsibilities that come along with that. And then now you have a one-track mind, so you don't think about anything outside of that they lost something. Granted, the perception is true. Your life changed dramatically, but you didn't lose anything. You just put your energy into something different. When you had friends, you were being a friend. You were going where they went, enjoying things they enjoy. Like, there's a lot of women that go along to get along. And you can do that your entire life and never learn how to say the word no. I don't want to go. I want to do my own thing. I'd rather stay inside. You see what I'm saying? Women are inherently taught to pour into other people. So when we're pouring into other people, in our mind, we're by definition living our life the way we're supposed to live it. It's not till we become parents and wives that we feel like that same gesture is sucking the life out of us, because you realize there's not enough time in the day to even get some decent sleep. You see what I'm saying? So the fatigue sets in and all of that. You're not getting dressed anymore because, you know, the baby always spits up on it. You're not prioritizing yourself anymore. See, and that's what the biggest change is that when you're out with your friends and going out on dates and going to tea parties and doing all of that, you're still prioritizing yourself, even though you're pouring into everyone else. When you become a wife and mother, you have to learn how to do that to the same capacity, because you will pour into your husband, you will pour into your home, you will pour into your kids, and nobody teaches you how to take care of everybody and yourself while you're a wife and mother. You know how to be social because that's what high school teaches you. That's what college teaches you. You know how to prioritize studying, but also flirt and do your hair and all of that stuff. That's the easy stuff. But when you become a wife and mother, that's not what you see mommy do. You see mommy sacrifice. You see her burn the candle at both ends. Everybody else looks good and she looks frumpy. You see what I'm saying? And so you learn how to sacrifice. And what women don't learn until they get married and have kids is how much sacrifice that is and how little room there is for you to do you if you don't make space for that. So it feels like you're pouring out and you don't have anything for yourself. And when you start talking to your partner about it, you start talking to your friends about it, your friends gas you up, your husband feels like you're trying to break up with him. And then you, in your mind, you rationalize this feeling as I'm being suffocated. And the only way to get what I need is to leave. I'm unhappy. And so that's why women think that the single life or single motherhood is better than catering to a man in relationship, is because she has that sense and she's actually capable of pouring into herself while she's single, while she's out doing her own thing. That's one less person that she has to worry about. And she knows how to do for herself in that demographic, in that environment. She doesn't know how to fit herself into the priorities as a wife and as a mother. You see what I'm saying? So because of that perception, we think losing yourself in that context is the same thing as losing yourself, as in you actually had your identity and then you lost it. They're not the same thing. They feel like they are. The perception is similar. But the only thing that really happened to the person who never had an identity is they lost the ability to prioritize themselves the way they did before marriage and kids. Whereas the person who actually had an identity, their goals went out the window, their dreams went out the window, their big voice and them chasing, you know what I mean, doing the hobbies that they love, they stopped doing those things. You see what I'm saying? And that's real identity loss.